Inside the Magic, show number 442 for September 24th, 2013. It is Tuesday, September 24th, 2013. This is show 442 of Inside the Magic, and as always, I am your host, Ricky Briganti, and we have a whole lot of Halloween fun on this week's show as Halloween Horror Nights has descended upon Orlando, but that's not all we're going to be talking about. I do have some fun food previews from Epcot and plenty more news. So before we get to all of that, I invite you to visit our website over at InsideTheMagic.net. There you'll find all of our podcasts, videos, photos, news, articles, and plenty more. And if you ever have any news, tips, questions, comments, or anything else that you want to send in, you can write to me at Ricky@InsideTheMagic.net, or you can call and leave a message at 407-494-4ITM. That's 4486. And now, let's get on with the show. This week's episode of Inside the Magic is brought to you by Magical Travel. A deliciously brilliant offer is available with free dining for Walt Disney World guests for arrivals most nights between September 29th, just a few days from now, and December 22nd. You're going to want to contact Magical Travel today for more information and the best availability, and you do that by calling them at 866-207-8387, or you can visit them online at magicaltravel.com to receive a free price quote, and be sure to mention Inside the Magic to receive your free Disney gift card for qualifying bookings when you book your Disney vacation with Magical Travel. And of course, thanks very much to Keith for your donation this week and all of our monthly recurring donation subscribers and anyone clicking through any of the affiliate links over on InsideTheMagic.net. I thank you for all of it because it all supports this show and lets me, jump around the country and do all kinds of fun Halloween stuff and report back on it. And, yeah, all that's coming up in the next few weeks. So thanks for all of it. And now let's get started with our trip around the world. So it is indeed a Tuesday show this week, not Sunday or Monday, for a variety of reasons. One, I've been super busy with Halloween Horror Nights, went to the employee preview night on Wednesday, went to opening night on Friday, went back on Saturday for a full day. I was there for 12 hours doing lights on tours and a special video opportunity, and it was long and exhausting, and somewhere in the mix of all of that, I got sick. So I've been trying to battle off a cold because, Halloween is here. This is my favorite time of the year, and I didn't want to be sick for any of it. So just finally getting over that now. Got much more coming up, many special events coming up over the next few days and the next few weeks. So anyway, here I am, Tuesday show. But as I said, it's not only Halloween talk this week, as much as I would love to just spend hours and hours talking about nothing, but that there are other exciting things that are going on in the world of theme parks and Disney and all that good stuff as well, starting out here at Walt Disney World at the Magic Kingdom, where the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is actually making some visible progress. Finally, the Mine Train car not only has been seen out on the track in New Fantasyland at the Magic Kingdom, but also, apparently just a couple of days ago, it ran under its own gravity for the very first time, went over a drop and, moved around the track. But previous to that, they had been pulling it around the track. So the car, at least one train car, is out there and in process of testing, which is, little by little inching its way toward completion. Don't get your hopes up. It doesn't mean it's going to be running for guests anytime soon. Spring 2014 is still when Disney is saying that ride is going to be opening, and nothing more specific than that. Let's jump coast out to Disneyland now, where a little bit more information has come out about Thor. Treasures of Asgard is what it's going to be called when the Thor meet and greet opens in Disneyland's Innoventions, and it has been given an opening date. Thor will begin meeting and greeting for the very first time, in fact, first time for any Marvel character at Disneyland, November 1st. When you step into this experience in Innoventions, the Bifrost is going to transport guests to Asgard, and there you will view some exhibits as well as meet Thor himself. Sticking with Disneyland now, although already looking toward the Christmas season. We're just getting rolling on Halloween, but Disney's already talking Christmas because they are preparing for something called World of Color Honor Choir. The World of Color Winter Dreams version, we already know about that. It's going to be a complete overhaul of the World of Color nighttime show over at Disney California Adventure, brand new this year. And included is going to be something called the Honor Choir. You can go to worldofcolorhonorchoir.com, and there you can find out, sign up, find out how to lend your voice to be part of this. They want you to submit your own video, your own voice of you singing along with a new song called Glow. And they will somehow select a variety of voices that they deem worthy of being part of the show, and they'll include it. And I'm going to play a little bit of what this new song, Glow, sounds like. It's going to be very, very Christmassy and nice and pleasant and soft and very different from what we'll be talking about for the remainder of the show. The song is actually from Grammy-winning composer and conductor Eric Whitacre, and he is part of this whole project to bring it to World of Color for this Honor Choir. If you want to hear the whole song and, submit your own vocals to take part, again, that website is worldofcolorhonorchoir.com. So moving on from there, sticking with the Disneyland theme here, of course, over the last few weeks, really months, I've been talking about The Optimist, which is this viral promotion alternate reality game that Disney was running for the movie Tomorrowland, which doesn't come out until next year. Well, The Optimist seems to have wrapped up for now, and it was especially evident as just this past week, Disney posted an official wrap-up video for The Optimist. Those of you who were following along with the story know of Amelia. She was sort of the lead character for The Optimist, and she's been working on this documentary video since the beginning. That was really the story of that they were telling through this adventure. They were filming along the way. Disney was filming along the way and captured a lot of the fans taking part, including Jeremiah Dawes, our frequent contributor here. He was up in Club 33, and he's as part of the wrap-up video. You'll see a lot of tweets from me as part of the video as well. So it's really fun to be part of that. Of course, you want to head over to storyorbit.com if you want to see that official wrap-up video. For now, it seems like there may be more to The Optimist in the future, but at the moment, it's over and done with. Okay, now let's get serious here for a moment. There's an issue going around that's making a lot of headlines this weekend. I've already gotten a ton of emails about it. It's going to be changes that Disney is doing to Walt Disney World and Disneyland's policy of accessibility for those with disabilities. There's something called the Guest Assistance Card that's been around for many, many years. You would go to Guest Relations if you have some sort of disability, some sort of health issue that for some reason you weren't able to go through the normal lines for an attraction, wait in line or go into those tight quarters or any reason, you would explain that to them, and they may provide you with a guest assistance card that in a lot of cases would let you either bypass the regular line or just jump straight to the front of the line, maybe go up the exit, or maybe take an alternate route. There was a variety of reasons or versions of this, but it was designed to help those who couldn't, for whatever reason, stand in the regular Disneyland lines. Well, there's been a lot of abuse of this system, particularly lately. There's been some headlines going around that disabled folks were getting these cards and then hiring themselves out as tour guides, basically getting people they didn't know, taking money from them, and then going into the park and basically letting them jump the lines. Definitely an abuse of the system. Made a lot of headlines over the last few months, as I said. Well, now Disney has responded by essentially doing away over the next couple of weeks. It hasn't been made official yet, but they are essentially doing away with that traditional guest assistance card, moving into a new system, and this is one that many have called for many years now. It's going to be almost a fast pass of sorts. If you are in need of a service like this, you can't wait in line, you're going to have a different sort of card that will enable you to go up to an attraction, let's say, Alice in Wonderland and Fantasyland at Disneyland. Let's say the wait time's 50 minutes for that attraction. attraction. There's no fast pass for that attraction, of course. So let's say you go up there, you're not able to wait in line because of a disability. The cast member there will give you a timed ticket and say, hey, the current wait time is 50 minutes long. You can come back in 50 minutes. You don't have to wait in the line, but you do have to at least wait somewhere. Go do something else until that same amount of time that you would have waited in line passes. So it's not an instant gratification, instant jump to the line, front of the line thing anymore. Still, offers equality for everybody. It's anybody who's able-bodied is able to stand in the line and wait that duration, but anybody who can't still has to wait that amount of time. They just don't physically have to be there in the actual line. Seems fair to me. There's been a lot of fuss over it, certainly over the last few days since the news kind of broke about this. I don't think everybody is quite understanding how it's going to work due to a lot of misleading headlines out there. A lot of them are saying Disney is ending disability access or ending line jumping policy or things like that. It's not quite right. Really, it's just that anyone who has any kind of a disability is going to wait just as long as anybody else. You just don't have to physically, go through the issues that you might have waiting in a physical line. So really is fair as far as I'm concerned to everybody. You still, let's say you need air conditioning for some reason, you get overheated very easily. You can go wait in the air conditioning in a gift shop or a restaurant or, wherever, and then just come back to the attraction when it's your time. And really, it almost lets you, you can go grab a second fast pass, do multiple attractions. You could even go ride something else that has a short wait and then come back. I'm sure there's many ways to make it work very well for you and your family, even with those with disabilities. So, it's nice that Disney does offer assistance as they can. It's terrible that people were abusing it, but I think this is a good way, and honestly, I think this is the way it probably should have been from the beginning, that everybody is equal in this case, which is what I think is the right way to go. So there's the news and my take on it. I should note that October 9th is the date for this new disability system to begin. So, let's see, another bit of Disneyland news. We've been talking about Club 33 and the upcoming expansion of that. Well, apparently a little bit of changes, well, a lot of changes actually will be taking place at Club 33, the exclusive restaurant in New Orleans Square, Disneyland, even in advance of the closure of the restaurant in January. Beginning on October 7th, the lunch service is going to be changing. It's not going to be the traditional buffet lunch service that it's been for so many years. Instead, the buffet is going away. You're going to go for lunch. You're going to order an appetizer. You're going to order an entree, and there's still going to be a dessert buffet, but just not a entree appetizer buffet. And the price very different, $65. It's one of the lowest prices at Club 33 that I've ever heard of. So interesting changes there. Again, that starts October 7th and will last until the club closes down in early January for a roughly 6-month renovation. When it reopens, who knows if they will stick to this same plan. Maybe this is sort of a test, or maybe this is just in the meantime, but we shall see. But if you, for some reason, are planning on visiting Club 33 in the final couple of months of this year, that is what you can expect for lunch. Now, I have been talking about Halloween, of course, and I absolutely just can't not mention this particularly bizarre Halloween event that is coming up starting this Friday. It's not in a theme park. I don't really go into independent haunts too much on the show. I've been writing a lot about them over on InsideTheMagic.net, and I plan to over the next few weeks, but I just had to mention this one because it's so incredibly bizarre. There's a haunt called Shocktoberfest in Pennsylvania. It's been around for a number of years, and as, you could call it a stunt, something certainly to get a lot of attention focused on them. This year, they're doing something called the Naked and Scared Challenge, in which they are inviting those willing to step into their haunted house and walk all the way through completely naked. Certainly not for everybody, certainly for adults only, but it's supposed to heighten your sense of fear is really the goal. It actually is inspired by Discovery Channel shows Naked and Afraid, the Discovery Channel's show. Anyway, it's not something I would necessarily do, but checked InsideTheMagic.net sometime next week, and you might hear of a report from this particularly unique haunted house experience. Now, completely different than that, back to the world of Disney, though. Let's turn to video games. Now, the newest game from Disney Interactive has hit iOS and Android devices. It is called DuckTales Scrooge's Loot. I actually mentioned this a week or two ago as they were testing it up in Canada, or first releasing it in Canada, and now it's available to the U.S. as well. And the Beagle Boys have stolen Scrooge's loot in this game, and it's up to players to join the citizens of Duckburg to recover his gold. It's kind of a bizarre game where you've got a lot of ducks that you might not recognize necessarily from the DuckTales show, but it is in the DuckTales universe, which is a good thing, and it's free to download and play. Of course, once you're in there, they want you to buy all kinds of upgrades and things like that, so you can check that out, again, for iOS and Android devices. Speaking of DuckTales, Capcom has announced something surprising for DuckTales Remastered, which I can't say enough good things about. Fantastic game. Disc-based versions of DuckTales Remastered will be hitting retail store shelves across North America on November 12th. This includes Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and Wii U. So if you didn't want to do the digital download, you want to have an actual physical product to go purchase, you will be able to do so beginning November 12th, just in time for the holiday season. It's going to be $19.99. Another video game release that was fairly recent was the latest in the Kingdom Hearts saga, though it's not a new game. It is Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 Remix. This is a HD remix. It's a redo, a remake, I think is the word I'm looking for, of the original Kingdom Hearts game, the one that started it all, the one that everybody raves about, and the new one looks and sounds fantastic in HD. It's available for PlayStation 3. Now, I don't have a PS3, unfortunately, so I haven't played it. But, our good friend Paul Berry from Window to the Magic, he's on this show at least once a year, this year twice, talking about the year in review and all of that. Well, his son Calvin, big gamer, and he fortunately has a PS3, so I tasked him with reviewing Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 Remix, and he did just that over on InsideTheMagic.net. So if you want to read all about that, including the launch event that was held at Disneyland, head over to the website to read all of it. And Disney Infinity, certainly still big in the world of video games for Disney. I unfortunately haven't had much time to play it since it came out. I've been too busy with other things. I really want to get into it very soon, really get into it. But anyway, to get further into it, actually, Disney Interactive has finally released the Toy Box app version for iPad 2, 3, and 4, and the iPad, iPad Mini. It's free through October 5th, so you want to jump on that as soon as possible. And this lets you edit your toy box, or create a toy box right there on your iPad, which is much easier than trying to do it on the screen. You can, use your finger and drag stuff around and all of that, and then you can sync that with your console game, which is even better. So I definitely would recommend grabbing that while it is free through October 5th. Now let's turn to the world of movies, where Disney just a day or two ago released a first look at actress Lily James playing the title role in the upcoming live-action Cinderella movie. It just began production in London. Cinderella is going to be released from Walt Disney Studios on March 13th, 2015, so we're quite a while away, a year and a half away or so, but it is interesting to see what she looks like as this new version of Cinderella. She's wearing a kind of an aqua-colored dress, certainly long, flowing blonde hair, and she's, Cinderella-ish. So we'll wait and see how that turns out in another year and a half. Things are not going so well over in the world of Pixar, however. Some updates to movie release dates. We recently reported that the director of The Good Dinosaur had been taken off the project. They haven't named a new director yet. And as such, The Good Dinosaur is not going to be released in 2014 anymore. It's being pushed back to November 2015. That means there is not going to be a Pixar movie coming out in 2014. That's a first for a very long time. Likewise, Pixar's Finding Nemo sequel, called Finding Dory, has been moved from November 2015 now all the way to June of 2016. So that got pushed back as a result of The Good Dinosaur, and summer 2015 will be Inside Out, which I'm really looking forward to. So 2015 will get Inside Out and Good Dinosaur, and then Finding Dory in 2016, and nothing next year, which is definitely a surprise. Also, in the world of movies, of course, Jerry Bruckheimer and Disney have had a partnership for quite a while, doing the Pirates films, doing Lone Ranger most recently. Well, it seems as of 2014, they are going to part ways. This first look deal that they've had as Bruckheimer being the producer of films for Disney will be no more. So you shouldn't necessarily expect more Bruckheimer films for Disney in the future. They're going to go in a new direction. Now, in the world of television, almost as I'm recording this right now, it's coming up in, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes or so, will be the premiere episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on ABC, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I missed it at Comic-Con, I missed it at the D23 Expo, so I haven't seen this pilot episode yet, but I'm excited about it. It seems like it's going to be a good show, so I am most definitely looking forward to the first episode and hopefully many more to come. And final news this week is a TV listing from Kirby over at bartlett-sloan.net/TV on, well, it was actually on just yesterday for the first time, but it will repeat tonight, actually it was this morning. So, see, this is what happens when I record on a Tuesday. I miss things. Sunday, it's going to repeat again. Let's go with that one. September 29th from 5 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. on a station called RFD-TV. I'm not even sure what that is, but the show is Gentle Giants Disneyland, in which the hosts of the show are going to explore the world of horses at Disneyland. So, an interesting new show there. I would have told you about 2 other airings had I actually recorded this on Sunday, but I was sick, so I couldn't. So, yeah, Sunday, September 29th, RFD-TV at 5 p.m. And that'll do it for your news from around the world this week. And today's tip comes in from me in just a little bit. I'll be talking about Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Orlando, and I have a tip just for that very event. I get so many people writing to me saying, are the express passes worth the extra cost? How do I best approach this event and not wait in incredibly long lines all night long? Well, here's sort of my set of tips for that. Number one, if you can afford the express passes, go for it, especially if you're going on a busy night like a Friday or a Saturday, which Saturdays are tremendously busy. The express passes will get you into everything, and it basically doubles the price of admission, but if you want to see absolutely everything, that is the only way to guarantee it. However, there are some good strategies for approaching Halloween Horror Nights and getting through all the haunted houses and seeing the shows in a single night, even if you don't have those express passes. No guarantees, of course. Depends on the weights of everything, but my general, good strategy is to get there certainly right when the event starts, even a few minutes before, and stay all the way till the end. And at the very beginning of the night, go to the back of the park. Hit the haunted houses in the very back, because everybody kind of rushes to the front of the park and stops, with the first one and the second one. If you go straight to the back, you can probably hit at least 2, maybe even 3 haunted houses with waiting in little to no lines at all. There are some exceptions now that they're doing annual pass holder early entry and that sort of thing, so you might run into some hiccups there. But for the most part, if you go straight to the back of the park, you should be good to go, and then work your way slowly back to the front. Now, in the middle of the night when everything gets to be really, really long, go see a show. Go see Bill and Ted, go see Rocky Horror, take a load off, get some food, rest for a little bit, and then towards the end of the night, come midnight, 1, 2 a.m., depending on which night it is, you work your way to the front of the park, and you'll find that the very front, the houses there, will have much, much shorter waits than they did near the beginning. Now, an exception is if you really, really want to see a house at the front of the park, like Cabin in the Woods is the first one you come to when you enter this year. You could just go for it. As soon as the event opens, there will be almost no wait for that, maybe, 5-10 minutes, depending on how close you were to the front of the line. You might want to knock that out right away and then go to the back of the park, but you'll probably hit a line once you get back there. So it's a little bit of, play it by ear. Don't be afraid to run around the park and, hit a house way at the back and then come way to the front and just keep bouncing around. And if you see a line that's too long, just skip it for now. It'll probably be shorter later. So there's a basic strategy for approaching the event, because those lines can be brutal. You do not want to wait an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours for a 3-minute walkthrough experience. It takes all the fun out of it. So just a few tips to help you better manage one of those evenings. I'll be definitely talking much, much more about this year's Halloween Horror Nights in just a little bit. But for now, everybody else, if you've got a tip, email it to tips@insidethemagic.net. But actually, before we even get into the Halloween fun, I have a completely different topic to share, a couple of interviews on something that will surely make you hungry. But before we even get to that, I do want to talk about Capturing Magic. It's a pair of iPhone apps that are the ultimate tool for documenting and recording the magic of your Disney vacation. Whether you're at Disneyland or Walt Disney World, Capturing Magic offers a helpful list of photo opportunities and memories to capture before, during, and after your trip. It's a perfect way to ensure that you don't miss a magical moment. And while you're in the parks, the app is actually going to remind you of the desired photo opportunities on your list when you're near those locations. And then whenever you take a photo, you can use the app to say, hey, I took this picture and these people are in it and I used this camera. And then later you organize it all and it's quite handy. So the Capturing Magic iPhone apps are available now in the iTunes App Store. Now, last week on the show, we talked food trucks, that announcement, and we talked to the chef, or I talked to the chef. I don't know why I say we. It was just me. Well, technically, Michelle, my wife, was holding the camera, so I guess we both talked to him anyway. So the two of us actually had a chance, in addition to talk about food trucks, we were also talking Food and Wine Festival. Starts September 27th, just a few days from now. One of my favorite events of the year over at Epcot. Great new marketplaces and returning marketplaces all around the world showcase special events, concert series, the Eat to the Beat series. Lots to look forward to, but mostly the food. And so I wanted to learn a little bit more about what's coming to this year's Food and Wine Festival. So I talked to Michael Jenner, who is the festival project manager for Epcot's International Food and Wine Festival, to find out his thoughts on what's new this year and what everybody can expect out of. Moving into the 2013 Food and Wine Festival, definitely one of the most highly anticipated events every year. What do you do year after year to keep it fresh and new and make sure guests want to come back?
Well, number one, we talk to our guests. So while the festival is going on, we're walking around and talking to the guests. We look at the research data, both from when we do surveys, as well as what sells and what doesn't sell. And then we sit down while the festival is going on and after, both with Chef Jens, Mary Ann Hunnell, and all the managers that work during the festival, and talk about what to bring back, because there's guest favorites that you want to have year after year. Biddy and cheese soup. I think there would be a small riot if we didn't bring that back every year. But we want to keep it fresh, so we look about bringing back 20% or redoing 20% of the festival, just to keep it new and fresh. What marketplace do we want to retire? Has it been here a long time? Is there something new on the horizon that we want to bring in? And then what do those dishes look like, not only from a food component, but also from a beverage component? And then the same with the events. We look at what's popular and what's not popular. And obviously, if it's not popular, away it goes, and then the new ones come back in.
I'd say this time of year is definitely the time where I visit Epcot the most out of the whole year. Is there an uptick in attendance during the Food and Wine Festival?
Absolutely. It's one of our more popular times of the year, and that's because of the festival. We have people who plan their vacations to come during the festival. That's when they come visit Walt Disney World, so they can be here specifically for the Epcot Food and Wine Festival. In fact, I know some guests who come for 46 days, so they come every single day to the festival.
So would you consider the Food and Wine Festival to be among Epcot's best attractions?
I would say it is the best attraction for Epcot, yes. But I'm partial because that's what I work on.
Right. So for this year, 2013, obviously you have, as you said, a bunch of new offerings. What do you think is going to be sort of the hit that is going to stand out of the new ones?
Of the offerings, of the food items?
Yeah.
From a food item, I'm gonna say it's actually the one right behind me, which is the pork belly at Brazil. That is just a phenomenal dish. It's something that you wouldn't expect to have at a marketplace for the amount of preparation that goes into that. It's a hit, and especially with the beer, it's just a phenomenal dish. Jens and I think, both think that it's going to be the number one item for marketplaces this year.
I definitely enjoyed it. It was
great, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was excellent. Just the combination of the beans, the guacamole, and then of course the pork belly. It all ties in very well together. Out of the fan favorites that have been around for years, has there ever been? You said it would be a small riot if you took away some of those. Have you ever done one of that? Take it away and then.
Well, Brazil actually. We retired Brazil last year. We didn't have Brazil, and we just got inundated with letters and phone calls and that to bring it back, and so we did. We did change the menu up a little, but we have a huge Brazilian following and population that comes to Epcot, so we brought it back.
When it comes to getting the name out there for the Food and Wine Festival, during this time of year, is that the focus of Epcot or even of Walt Disney World? I mean, is it a primary sort of draw for Walt Disney World, or?
I think it's one of the major things happening this time of year at Walt Disney World, but we also have Mickey's Not So Scary that's happening at the same time. So there's, at any time at Walt Disney World, there's something for everyone to do. And for those truly food aficionados, it's something to discover. And even if you're not, people, believe it or not, will come to Epcot and not realize it's a festival. They'll think that's what we do every single day of the year and just enjoy themselves. And then again, we have those who come specifically for that, and then other people who just enjoy Epcot, whether it's the festival going on or not, who come back.
There are those who wish you were doing it every day of the year. So why don't you have it all year?
Well, it's strange that you mentioned that. We do a little for Flower and Garden. Last year, I don't know if you remember, we introduced 12 marketplaces, and we'll be doing that again this year. So Epcot truly, if you're a festival person, Epcot is the park to go. It's the festival park. So not only for food and wine in the fall, Flower and Garden in the spring, which is 75 days, and you will be seeing a food and beverage component during the festival then too.
Was the decision to add food to the Flower and Garden Festival a direct reaction to the popularity of food and wine?
Oh, absolutely. People just enjoyed the marketplaces at Food and Wine so much. Now, it's not a cut and paste. We just didn't lift the marketplace. The structures literally are lifted in place for Flower and Garden, but the food items are all new. So you can visit both festivals and get a totally different experience. But if you're a food connoisseur, you're going to enjoy both equally.
Good to hear that they are returning with the food options for Flower and Garden Festival. I enjoyed it. The lines were never very long. It didn't appear to be popular, but it sounds like it was popular enough for them to bring it back, which is a good thing. And I doubt they would abandon it just after one try anyway. So we'll see how many years that sticks around. But Food and Wine Festival definitely, coming up in just a few days. Lots of new things to try. I had a chance to try at the event that I attended, and where I had a chance to talk to Mr. Jenner there, as well as the gentleman that you'll be hearing in just a moment. I had a chance to try a number of the new items. The pork belly that he mentioned there was excellent. It's definitely going to be a standout item this year. It was just simply delicious. There's no way other to describe that. It was a wonderful bite for every bite through it. Of course, everything at Food and Wine Festival is it's small plates, so you're not filling up on one particular item, but you might want to get 2 or 3 of those pork bellies because they were very, very good. Unfortunately, didn't have a chance to try anything from the Scottish menu yet. I'm really looking forward to trying that this coming weekend. But anyway, to talk a little bit more about some of the new offerings and how all the menus are put together, I spoke with Jens Dahlman. He is the executive chef for Epcot and for the International Food and Wine Festival. So here is what he had. 2013 Food and Wine Festival at Epcot. How is it going to differ from the past? Are you going in any sort of new directions?
I think overall direction, I think we kept pretty a steady course. This is my 6th festival, my 5th year. So I think my vision, or the vision I tell my team we should go, is just continuing on authentic flavors, simple preparations, freshness of the ingredients and freshness of preparation. So I think the biggest change, every market, all the produce are cooked right in front of you. The flavor profiling we do, it's got to stay authentic. So that's really the main message. And then we filter in, okay, what countries are hot, what culinary trends are going on, and just to stay current and just really have fun with it. And that's really what it's all about. I think culture is food. And the best way to learn different cultures is through the food, because once you know what people eat, you kind of understand a lot more about them. So the festival, I think it's a great example. And I think now the last couple of years, when you walk the promenade, you just walk around and you walk past the kiosks and you're going to be like, what was that? So not in a bad way, it's just like, oh, that smells delicious. It's like the pork belly this year. You're going to walk past Brazil, you're going to know there's pig cooking on the grill, and you're going to be like, oh my God, I want to try that. And that's really kind of what we're trying to do. So that's the message, is getting the flavors out there in front of the guests so they smell it and they taste it.
Well, from that respect, people go to theme parks, they think rides and shows. Do you think over the years food has become as big of an attraction as those other elements?
Whoa. I was talking politics here, but I do think there's something like culinary tourism that is definitely there. And I think I'm very lucky to be the executive of Epcot, because Epcot is a food park for Disney. We have the most restaurants, we have the most diversity, so it's a great spot to be in. But yeah, I do think, especially for Food and Wine Festival, we have regulars that come every year and they stay for 2 to 3 weeks in our vacation clubs and just have a great time, They can just come, hang out, chill, have a good time, go back to the hotel, back the next day, do some cooking classes, wine classes. It's just, I mean, who else can offer this kind of experience? It's just great.
It is unique, and it's obviously wrapping around the World Showcase brings you into that world. When developing the menu year after year for guests, how do you sort of separate the, your casual tourist who expects chicken strips and all that kind of stuff at a theme park, and then the other group who expects nothing but the best?
It's about balance. It's about offerings and diversity. So we have, and the marketplace it's in addition. I think even without those 29 marketplaces, Epcot already is pretty diverse. I mean, you can please the traveling gourmet and you can please the school class of 10-year-olds. So, and this infrastructure doesn't really change. And then we layer just another complexity on top of it. So, but I think, like you said, for the not so gourmet tourists, like this year we did something, and I didn't talk about it earlier, but the refreshment portfolio is like one of our watering holes for like chicken chunks, chicken sandwiches, which is open year round. This year we pulled Dolan as a sponsor, and we're going to be featuring pineapple beignets. So it's pineapple rings, and we batter them, and then we deep fry them with a powdered sugar on top. But it's where we do the chicken chunks, like with a little pineapple sweet and sour dipping sauce. So even for the not so adventurous, we have something different. And try to upgrade those experiences as well.
That sounds delicious. For those looking for sort of the expert food experience, out of your dishes this year, what would you point them to? What one would be the most sort of impressive from a culinary standpoint?
Ooh, boy. I think a good example would be the beef tenderloin in Canada, because Les Celliers, our steakhouse, it's one of the most popular restaurants in Epcot, and that is something new. We haven't done that in the past, but we pulled actually a signature item out of the restaurant and put it on the promenade. So offering our guests that experience at a less of a dime. Right. So in the restaurant you pay over $40 for a nice filet, big portion, but on the promenade you can have it for like $6 or something. I don't name on the price, but so you get really a 2-ounce portion. It's center cut filet. It's it really gives our guests a great example. But the one item this year, let me think. The one item this year what we have to try. And it's kind of have to go back to the pork belly, which is kind of. But if you look at the work that's in that dish, it's intense. It's a 3-day process, and not everybody does it. I mean, there's many restaurants who don't go through the work, but we cure, we cook, we press, we cool, we cut, we cook again. So it's a pretty intense process So it's a lot of detail in it. And I think that's important. A lot of our guests don't know how much work is really in there. My right hand, Greg Hannon, he's a festival chef here. He has 120 production items, and everything is cooked from scratch. And so I approach it really as it's same as I was in the California Grill or the Flying Fish when I was a chef there. It's about proper ingredients, proper technique, simple and good presentation. That's what it's all about. So I think we're going to surprise everybody with the quality we have, and that's what most of the guests say. The I talk is like, yes, didn't expect that, Didn't expect that flavor profile, that complexity of the dishes. And I'm always happy when we can exceed those expectations.
That was the talented executive chef of Epcot, Jens Dahlman, certainly making us all hungry for the Food and Wine Festival starting in just a few days, and I'll make you even a little bit hungrier here as I talk about the food that I did sample, the new items from this year. Of course, the pork belly has been mentioned many times now already. Technically, the description is crispy pork belly with black beans, avocado, onions, and cilantro. Of course, all of that forms a nice guacamole on there. It is a great, it's not the pork belly you might think is really fatty and chewy. This is almost like a dense pulled pork. Great moist kind of grilled flavor. Definitely really, really enjoyed that. I will be sure to get some more of that once the festival begins. But another favorite that I had is a new item this year, kimchi dog with spicy mustard sauce. Of course, this is from the South Korea marketplace, and this is definitely spicy. It doesn't hit you right away. It's got a really hearty, nice flavor in the hot dog. It's just a hot dog, you think, but it's a really, really good hot dog. But then the mustard sauce is where the heat comes in. It kind of creeps up from the back of your mouth and really hits you. So you definitely want to be careful while you're eating that one, but it is particularly good. Another item that I tried was from the South Africa marketplace, and this is the Bearberry style beef with onions, jalapenos, tomato, okra, and pap. I wasn't a big fan of that. It was good, well-prepared beef. It wasn't a great cut of beef, and I wasn't a big fan of the pap, which is kind of like a cornmeal almost. So I don't think I'll be getting a lot of that. But it was, I guess worth trying, I suppose. However, something I will be getting many of that was simply delicious is the new orange Dole Whip. Served in two varieties. There's just a straight orange Dole Whip, which by itself is wonderful. It's a nice twist on, there's the pineapple Dole Whip, of course, for years and years. This orange Dole Whip, smooth, creamy, definitely orange, tastes great. But this year, for those who want a little kick with that, they are pairing it with the alcoholic beverage Creme de Cacao White, or a white chocolate liqueur. Now, last year, over the Flower and Garden Festival, they had the Dole Whip topped with spiced rum. I was not a big fan of that. It was just kind of a bizarre mixture. It was a little either too sweet or too strong or somewhere in the middle. I don't know. I didn't particularly like the combination, but this is perfect. The white chocolate liqueur is not overpowering. It's not too strong. It blends wonderfully. It adds layers to the flavor, to the tangy citrus flavor of the Dole Whip, and it's just, it's great, cool, refreshing. Loved every morsel of it. There's also a trio of desserts this year: a cherry pistachio mousse, a chocolate orange cupcake, and a hazelnut cheesecake. Now, I'm not a big cheesecake fan, so I didn't like that particularly too much, but my wife does love cheesecake a lot, and she devoured that. We both enjoyed the chocolate orange cupcake, though I found it to be a little too sweet for my taste. Very sweet icing. My favorite of the three was the cherry pistachio mousse, which was had this great gel on top. Was a nice little treat to have. And then one more item that I will mention here that is another must-have new this year is a frozen s'mores drink. It comes out looking like s'mores in a glass. It looks like it'll be like a thick pudding, something you got to eat with a spoon, but it is actually really light and airy and fluffy. It's topped with some marshmallows and graham and chocolate pieces and all of that you could eat with a spoon, or just kind of, stick your tongue in there and just gobble it up. But the drink itself, it just tastes like a s'more in every sip, but it is so surprisingly light and fluffy. It's quite little masterpiece there of a drink. So, lots to look forward to this year. Even the merchandise this year is kind of fun. They've got these new Mickey ear headband things with a little chef's hat on top. That is fun, and a variety of other merchandise as well. If you want to see even more of a preview of the Food and Wine Festival for this year, head over to InsideTheMagic.net, look for my article on there, or you could just wait a few days because it is starting September 27th at the end of this week, continuing daily at Epcot through November 11th. And the spooky music should clue you in that it is indeed finally time to talk about Halloween Horror Nights 23 at Universal Orlando. It is in full swing on select nights now through November 2nd, and I've already been there 3 times for many, many hours. I think there are 8 haunted houses this year, and I've been through all of them 3 times and 2 of them 4 times. So over the course of 3 nights, I essentially went through 26 haunted houses, which was awesome. Great lineup this year. I'm having such a lot of fun. A really excellent event. Such a vast improvement over last year, where I was kind of ho-hum about the whole thing. It was, it was fun. It was good. It was all right last year. But this year, I'm really blown away. They've improved the streets dramatically over last year. The haunted houses, there are some things that are simply blowing me away, that are just some of the best mazes, some of the best effects, some of the best interactions that you have ever seen at Halloween Horror Nights. So I'm really particularly excited to see how this event evolves over the next few weeks. I have a feeling it's just going to get better and better and better. But right now, I kind of want to run through some of the most fun moments, kind of my thoughts and reviews of each one of the experiences. I'm not going to go too heavy detail into any of them because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. Of course, you can go over to InsideTheMagic.net and watch videos this year of all 8 haunted houses. I shot it in regular lighting, I shot it in night vision, combined the two, perfectly crisp, clear versions of every single haunted house. So if you either want a preview, or maybe you're just too scared to go but you're curious, hit our YouTube channel, check the website. You can see pictures, you can see video of all the haunted houses, of all the scare zones, of the Rocky Horror Picture Show tribute. I've captured as much as I possibly can this year to bring it all to you, and of course it's better to go in person. No video can possibly do justice to any haunted haunted house experience. It's a 360 all around you, of course, jumping at you in your face, screaming, and crazy sensory overload experience that can't be captured. Smells, it definitely smells this year. That can't be captured in any video, but it gives you a good idea of what it's all about. So what is it all about? Well, opening night, just a few nights ago, Friday night, September 20th, it all kicked off, of course, as it does every year, for the press who are invited there. There's a great little media party, little food, little drinks, and that kind of thing. And then every year they always put a twist on it. Sometimes it's interviews, sometimes they have some opening moments. And this year, there was a fantastic Q&A session, not only with the creators of Halloween Horror Nights, who I've talked to many times before, names like Mike Aiello, Laura Wallace. You've heard from these people on the show before. But they added two great people to the lineup. One is a producer from Capcom of Resident Evil. Of course, there's a Resident Evil haunted house this year. The other is a name that you should know, John Landis. He is the director of many films over the years, Blues Brothers, and of course, An American Werewolf in London. That is one of the featured haunted houses, actually my favorite haunted house this year, pretty much everybody's favorite haunted house this year. But what you might not know is Mr. John Landis is absolutely hilarious. This roughly 45-minute Q&A was essentially dominated by John Landis, turned into the John Landis Comedy Hour. Whether it was his place to butt in or not, he did just that. And I want to share just a quick clip from this. It was a Q&A, so a lot of audience members. It was the press in the audience. They were asking questions, mainly of the Resident Evil producer, whose name was also John, and then John Landis as well. So the clip that I want to play, a question was asked to the panel saying, hey, Resident Evil, why did you go for the games Resident Evil 2 and 3 for the haunted house? Why didn't you go into any of the other, the movies, etc.? Why did you hone in on those experiences? And, well, at first you're going to hear John from Capcom talk a little bit about it. You'll hear Mike Aiello, creative director of Halloween Horror Nights, talk a little bit about it. And then John Landis, who has nothing to do with Resident Evil, decided to chime in with his own thoughts. And this is just a perfect example of what this great Q&A just ended up being all about. From opening night of House.
If you ask our fans, some of the favorite games in the series is Resident Evil 2 and 3, but we really wanted to focus on the environment surrounding Raccoon City. And for those of you who don't know what Raccoon City is, it's this Midwestern town where a violent catastrophe happens that's turning all these inhabitants into zombies and other creatures we call bioorganic weapons. And so just capturing that whole mood, that whole mystery surrounding this violent outbreak, I think was important to us and important to the fans. I mean, they really were calling for some more classic survival horror, which is, I think, one of our pillars of our franchise.
Yeah, and for us, translating 2 and 3, it was more about the textures involved with that. The color palette is a bit different. Last year the video game was about bringing that video game to life, whereas this year we really tried to put players into the game, down to when you walk through the maze, when you're not getting scared out of your wits. Keep a close eye on some of the props that are in the rooms, because we've actually placed items from the game sprinkled throughout the maze. The lighter, we have a save point room,
yes.
The ammo.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I've been in these houses. People aren't going, oh, look. Oh, my God. They're going like this. Ah! They're going like, that's so funny. I love that. They're going like, what remarkable attention. You remember August 17th, I was in the den playing the game. That lamb, they're scared.
Just for me then, I guess.
Truthfully, actually, I'm just being subversive. But the truth is, I think it does make a difference. I mean, I just know from Werewolf, it's like 6 people just from that little group said to me, oh, they had the Mickey Mouse. So I'm thinking, okay, so I'm just teasing.
There you go. Just a little sampling of the hilarity of John Landis. Of course, he admitted there that at the end that the detail is exactly what Halloween Horror Nights truly features and sets it above many other things. He mentioned Mickey Mouse that's in the American Werewolf in London house, and they didn't just throw that in there as a jab at Disney, but rather it's a detail from the actual movie in American Werewolf in London. There's a close-up of that Mickey Mouse in the film, so of course they had to put it in the haunted house experience. So now, with that, I mentioned sometimes on opening night they'll do something special like this Q&A, and I should also mention, getting ahead of myself here, I should mention that the entire Q&A featuring John Landis and John from Capcom and the other folks from Universal. You can watch the whole thing over on our website and our YouTube channel, and I encourage you to do so because it's just phenomenally hilarious. Anyway, so opening events, there actually is a little bit of an opening ceremony, if you will, this year. A short moment that happens right before the gates open each night, a Walking Dead moment, of course. This year, The Walking Dead is a good part of the theming to Halloween Horror Nights, and I'll get more into that in just a little bit. But if you're a fan of that whole experience, that whole show, and everything that surrounds it, you'll want to get there early to Universal Orlando before the gates open. Get up close in order to take in that whole moment. So now I do want to talk a bit about the individual haunted house experiences themselves. In order of personal preference here, I have already written my annual house-by-house review over on InsideTheMagic.net, so I know a lot of you have already read that, but sort of in summary here, my absolute favorite experience at this year's event, no question about it, An American Werewolf in London. It's a movie that I just sort of refreshed myself with a couple of weeks ago because I knew it was going to be at the event. I wanted to make sure it was fresh in my head, and that's a great idea to do before you go, because this haunted house is spot on, scene by scene, character by character. It is stepping into the movie. I've never seen anything such perfectly replicated from a film at Halloween Horror Nights before. From the opening scene in the Slaughtered Lamb pub, all the way through the wolf attacks and the nightmares and the transformation, the famous wolf transformation scene that happens right in front of you in the maze, and the wolves. The wolves. They are incredible. They are throughout the maze. They are these incredibly articulated, elaborate puppets that Universal has created. I have never seen anything like it. You don't know if it's real. You don't know if it's an animatronic. You don't know if it's a costume. You don't know if it's a puppet. They are just, it doesn't matter. They are real. The wolves are there, and they come out of nowhere, and they chomp at you, and they get you in your face, and the strobe lights, and the fog, and it's loud, and it's just wow. It's wow through and through. There are some Disney references. There is even a Doctor Who reference in there, being London and all. And just through and through, this whole experience is what Halloween Horror Nights is all about. It's an outside property. It's an intellectual property. And so that right there, kind of some people are turned off by that notion. They think Universal should only have their original ideas, which they have done many over the years, and they have some this year as well. But for an outside property house, this is one that they've been pursuing for years. John Landis has been telling them no. And finally this year he said, well, maybe. And so they managed to finally convince him, and I am so glad that they did, and I'm sure everybody is, because this is a phenomenal haunted house. Next up, my second favorite of the year, and another movie that you watch it and you think that's got to be a haunted house experience. It's The Cabin in the Woods, co-written by Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard, directed by Drew Goddard. You heard from him on this show a few weeks ago when this was announced, and the movie, again, it's the movie in real life. It's a little wackier than Werewolf. It's not quite as literal of a translation. There's so much chaos in this film. There's just monsters everywhere, crazy big, unreplicable monsters from real life, and the scale of this house is not quite as big as the movie, but it's close. You definitely encounter a lot of the famous characters from the movie, a lot of the famous scenes from the movie. You'll recognize plenty. You'll come face to face. You walk through the cubes. You go through the facility. Of course, you go through the cabin in the woods, naturally, and all of it is in great detail, great scale. I mean, just stepping into that cabin from the outside into the inside of it, it looks just like it does in the film, down to the the wolf's head mounted on the wall, conveniently right next to a walkway, a doorway that you go through. So if you wanted to have that moment with the wolf, you could. But You continue on, and there's a lot of great scares in the cabin, and then you go into the facility, and it's just, wow, overload. The purge is happening, and it's just tremendous insanity happening around you. Just a lot of fun, and there are some great Halloween Horror Nights past character references right at the very end of the maze. If you can make it through the fog and the strobes and the screaming and all of that, if you actually look around, as they were just saying about Resident Evil, you will notice some familiar faces, and it is definitely my number 2 for now. You know, things evolve over the time, but for now, the amount of detail and the amount of creativity and characters and fun that is in this house, it's probably the closest to a comedy house this year. There really is no comedy house this year. I'd say Cabin is probably the closest, but not quite. It's still definitely scary. Number 3, the goriest house of the year is definitely Evil Dead. This is based on the 2013 remake, and this house, another interesting approach to the way a haunted house is laid out. You know, of course, they have the cabin in the woods, and the first scene in that is you walk up to the cabin in the woods. Well, Evil Dead is set in a cabin in the woods, and they didn't want to necessarily go down that same path again. They didn't want you to walk into yet another soundstage and have essentially the same setting. So instead, this house is laid out very cinematically. It's like you're stepping, rather than stepping into the scenes of the movie, you are actually stepping through the movie itself. So your first thing that you see is like a title sequence, like an opening title sequence of a film. Kind of abstract things going on around you, a big Evil Dead words, that's the title of the film, and then it kind of eases you in with scenes that play out around you. It's not all scares that just jump out at you. There's actually little vignettes that happen room by room as you're walking through. Now, not all of it is necessarily scary, as in your face startle you, but the overall atmosphere is very creepy. A lot of great audio, great effects in here. Certainly plenty of visuals, recurring characters throughout. And if you enjoyed the film, you will see it reenacted in front of you. This is probably the closest to an experience like as if you were to take Evil Dead and turn it into a ride. I could imagine this is what it would be like, except you're walking through and very much in close proximity, and there's not animatronics, there's real people and creatures and stuff, demonic possession and whatnot. So I enjoy it. It's, Evil Dead, I wish it was the classic experience, the classic films, of course, the original, with Sam Raimi's original, with Bruce Campbell, Ash, all of that. It's not. It's the 2013 version, which is not Evil Dead quite, but it's still enjoyable. It's still entertaining, and this is, for now, my third favorite house. I think the more times I go through it, I might grow a little bit tired of it, and some of the others are really fantastic as well, such as my fourth favorite for now, Urban Legends La Llorona. I never in a million years would have expected this to be number 4 on my list because I've been through the one that was in Hollywood the last couple of years, and I was not a fan. This is an old Mexican urban legend about this woman who drowned her kids and has had to deal with the results of that in the great beyond, in her afterlife, and she's this weeping crazed spirit as a result, and it just didn't come off for me in Hollywood the way I guess maybe it did for others. I know a lot of people really enjoyed it. I found it kind of silly toward the end, whereas I personally like Orlando's version better. I'm not the some have said they like Hollywood's version better, but I like the one here because it's creepy, it's like chilling, it's like goosebump inducing. The second half takes you through this bizarre watery afterworld with flowing things and mirrors and water, and it's just a creepy experience. Out of all of them, I think this is the one that's going to become the scariest as the actors really get into a groove over the next few weeks, and it may actually move up my list. We'll see. I've enjoyed it so far, surprisingly. Now, of course, we have mentioned already Resident Evil, Escape from Raccoon City. I'm a big fan of the Resident Evil video games for many, many years now. I played the very first one when it first came out. I think I was in middle school or something when it first came out. Maybe high school, I don't know, somewhere around there. But it was a long time ago, and I've been playing since, and to step into this world is great. It didn't translate necessarily wonderfully perfectly as a haunted house experience, but it is a really cool environment to step into for fans of the video game series. You do feel like you're in the video game. It's more of a walkthrough exhibit, sort of dedicated to the game. Like if it was at Capcom headquarters, it would be awesome. There's a lot of certainly plenty of references and characters from the games. A lot of little touches here and there that you'll recognize if you have played the games. This one I think will improve quite a bit over the weeks to come. When I went in through the first time on employee preview night, it was not ready at all, and that's why it was preview night. When I went in opening night, it was getting there. And then when I went there on Saturday night, it was much better. So they are tweaking it night by night by night, and I think it will get a lot better in the coming weeks. But it's low-ish on my list for now, though it is a very enjoyable experience. Now, of course, that brings us to The Walking Dead, which is something that is back this year at Halloween Horror Nights, not only in an all-new haunted house, but also in the streets, which I'll talk about in just a minute. Now, I'm not a tremendous fan. I wasn't a tremendous fan of last year's haunted house for The Walking Dead. I think it was too much crammed into too small of a space. They were trying to do 2 seasons worth of scenes in 3 minutes of walking through, so it kind of jumped all over the place. Some of it was fun, some of it was just kind of meandering, not so fun. This year, they're focusing only on season 3, and so you go to Woodbury, you go to the prison, and some of it is great. You see these iconic locations. Certainly when you end up in the cell block that Rick and the gang in the show were in, spent so much time in, that is a really cool moment. In the maze, certainly going through the governor's office is cool, but the rest is, you're kind of just wandering among, chain link fences and concrete walls, and it's a very low detail experience. And it's more zombies or walkers or whatever. I am a really big fan of the Walking Dead TV show. I just don't think it translates itself very well to a haunted house experience. They've made major improvements over last year, but it's definitely not one of my favorites this year. And that leaves us with 2 of the original houses this year. Normally, the original, totally unique ideas for Halloween Horror Nights are among my favorite, usually above the outside intellectual property. This year, they're actually at the bottom. They've done such a great job with the outside properties that Afterlife, Death's Vengeance is my second least favorite at the moment, though I have a feeling over the weeks it might actually bump all the way down to the bottom. This is a 3D house, and I'm not a big fan of 3D houses because they're bright, they're colorful, and they just don't, they're not creepy to me. They're, they're startling. Things jump out at you, but those, that type of thing doesn't really affect me anymore because I've been through so many of these things. So for me, this is among the best 3D houses that Orlando has done in quite a while. I like it better than the In-Between a couple years ago. I like it better than Penn and Teller last year. But it's, it's still not great. It's good. It's enjoyable. It has some fun moments, but it's definitely not a great experience. There are others who would definitely beg to differ, because some people are just absolutely terrified by these 3D houses. I am not one of them. And that leaves us with the final haunted house, my, at the moment, least favorite, Havoc Derailed. I really didn't like the Havoc haunted house original, the Dogs of War house a few years ago. It got repetitive because every single actor was just this big, buff, bald person, female and male, but they were all essentially the same character over and over. And unfortunately, that's true once again. The environment is great in here. They've built a train, and you're walking down these train cars, and it feels like you're on a train. There's motion. It feels, lights going by and wind whipping and all of that. That part is cool. That's about it. It's a lot of just, big people yelling things at you and wielding guns around, and I don't know, it's not very spooky, it's not creepy, it's not Halloween to me. It's just loud and annoying. So that's my ranking for now. I will certainly keep updating it over on InsideTheMagic.net over the weeks to come to see what will happen as the houses evolve. But that's certainly not all for Halloween Horror Nights. There is the street experience, and this year it's all dominated by the walkers of The Walking Dead from all 3 seasons, and they have done a tremendous job with the scenic elements this year. Last year there was almost no scenery to be found throughout the park, which was really, really disappointing. This year, as you're walking through, you'll encounter a few survivors around who are trying to fend off against the zombies, some of them not so successfully. You'll see vehicles and buildings and things that are definitely recognizable from the show, which is really nice. And while I'm talking about The Walking Dead, let's go back to this. It's you'll recognize certain iconic walkers as you're going through. There's Teddy Bear Girl, and there's the Bicycle Girl, and Well Walker, and Deer Walker, and all those that are recognizable from there. And certainly a variety of zones that are straight out of the show, starting from the very beginning of the show in season 1, The Fall of Atlanta. The New York streets of Universal have been turned into Atlanta, complete with a tank that they built, which is incredibly impressive. It looks like a real tank, but it's not. There are sandbags everywhere, and there's like military that have been turned into walkers, and there is this horrid horrid stench of death in this area. Everybody's a fresh corpse or a fresh walker, and because they're fresh, they are just emitting this nasty, horrific smell. And it fits, and it's fun for a few minutes, but if you spend too much time in there, you kind of want to gag. So it's a good idea to make your way through Atlanta, but actually if you linger for long enough in this Atlanta area, you will see some great little scenes play out. Ones that completely fooled me, in fact. You'll see, kind of people just hanging around, having a good time, being loud, attracting attention to themselves, basically, and then all of a sudden they get attacked by a walker, get pulled off to the side, get bitten, there's a big wound on their leg, and they turn. And those are some fun moments. There are a variety of them. You never know where or when they're going to happen, but it is sort of adding to that whole experience as you're walking through. Good to hang around there if you can stand the smell. Another favorite area is Herschel's farm and barn. They've built the barn. It's burning. You can walk through the barn, and there are walkers in there, and it smells of burning. You go around the back, and there are a few surprises waiting for you there. And the whole area is it feels like it should to be straight out of, I guess, that's season 2 of The Walking Dead for that iconic location. And definitely a fun area to hang around. A lot of walkers, walking around, and they're a little bit more decomposed in this area. They're kind of fresher in Atlanta, but here they're a little later on, not looking so hot, and they're stumbling around and growling and snarling at you, and all of that kind of fun stuff. There's Survivors Camp, Dale's RV, and a variety of tents around there. And this is a small area. There's a lot of sort of activity, a lot of hustle and bustle because it's kind of a crossroads at Universal, sort of the area that splits off where you go left to The Simpsons and you go right to E.T. and all of that. It's that area in the middle. And there are survivors trying to stay alive there, but the real draw of this area is not only Dale's RV, which is sitting there, it's a fun photo op, but also in these tents, some very special things happen where you'll see some particularly gory walker attacks when people are supposed to be soundly sleeping. So that's a lot of fun as well. Nearby are the woodlands. Certainly with The Walking Dead, they spend a lot of time in the woods, kind of making their way around, trying to avoid dying and that kind of thing. There's a great scene featuring the deer walker from an early episode of The Walking Dead where he's just munching away on this downed deer, and he gives you some snarls, and as he's biting in, you might even get spritzed a little bit by some shooting liquid of some sort. So that's an interesting, fun visual moment. Nearby, Bicycle Girl is fantastic. One of the definitely eye-popping visuals this year. They, Bicycle Girl from the very first episode of The Walking Dead, one of the most famous walkers of the show, this half-bodied zombie pulling itself along the ground by its hands because it has no lower half. Well, they did that. They've done that through a very talented actor who doesn't have half a body. And how convenient. So that worked out. It's creepy, that's for sure, to see this person who normally would be in a wheelchair instead, dragging along and become the undead. It's a fun one of those moments you only see at Halloween. Clear is another zone that's this one's straight out of a particular episode called Clear, in which there are these zombie traps, walker traps. You see the walkers who have become victim to these traps. They're staked along these traps throughout the area, but of course they will break loose every once in a while when you're least expecting it and roam through the area. It's a brightly lit area, probably the most brightly lit of all the zones this year. Great for photos, and a nice opportunity to see more and more and more zombies. And another use of some actors with amputated limbs, which is it's fitting. It's good to see that Universal really went out of their way to hire those who really, really fit the part. There's also in the same zone where there was, or same area of the park where there was a Walking Dead scare zone last year, they put up essentially the same thing this year with the school bus and everything. Probably my least favorite of the bunch. It doesn't really have a name. I guess I'd call it the highway because there's a school bus there broken down and there's some other cars as well. Very crowded. You can't really tell what's going on, so there's not a lot. But overall, all of this Walking Deadness to the streets, much, much better than last year. There's this fun thing called that's a zombie dump or a zombie van. This van that drives around the park, and these masked guys will get out and they'll open up the back of the van, and all of a sudden all these walkers will come pouring out of the back, and then they'll invade the area for a while, and then they'll coax them back in by throwing intestines and other limbs and stuff back into the van. They'll get in and they'll drive away, and that's the end of that. It's a very bizarre, surreal kind of moment, but it is fun to watch, and things like that really have added a lot of energy to the streets this year. It's not the same as all the different creative zones that they used to have for so many years prior to last year, where they completely reinvented the streets and had all these very interesting characters and colors and music and all different areas you could just hang out in and watch. This year it's zombie after zombie after zombie, and after a while it does get kind of old, but if you're a fan of The Walking Dead, you will appreciate all the detail that has gone into everything. Now, the one thing I am not a fan of this year in the streets is the addition of the Chainsaw Drill Team, which is not part of The Walking Dead. They just figured, hey, it's Halloween Horror Nights, we have to have the chainsaws. So they kind of got lazy with it, and they just put a bunch of guys in some bloody outfits, kind of, denim jackets and stuff like that, and they're wielding chainsaws, and of course people scream because they're chainsaws. There's a girl with them that has a bullhorn, and she's kind of yelling insults at people, and I don't know. I mean, the chainsaws will always get screams. It's a cheap scare, but I'm not a big fan of that area this year. And that takes us to the shows this year. We've got Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure, of course, back for the 22nd year, almost every single year of Halloween Horror Nights. Let's kill the Walking Dead dubstep remix here for a little while and go back to just some generally spooky music. Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure starts really solid this year, ends really solid. In the middle, kind of goes off track. Kind of lost me in the middle with a lot of references I didn't get, or they just weren't funny, or both. But the middle, it's actually kind of spooky, Halloween theme this year, which is nice. They haven't done that before. Some dancers come out, some both male and female dancers come out, dressed in a variety of familiar costumes from the world of horror. Of course, by the end of their dance, most of the costumes end up on the floor, and they're wearing very little, and that's what Bill and Ted is all about. In fact, this year, I think Hollywood has had a tremendous influence on Orlando, because the dancers were wearing far less clothing by the end of this than I think in any year past, which is generally the case in Hollywood, not so much in Orlando. Definitely some influence there. And then at the end, toward the end of the show, some really great Disney jabs. Funny stuff. Some jabs straight at some elements of Walt Disney World's entertainment, or perhaps sometimes lack thereof, that hit very well with the Orlando audience. Some of the funniest lines in the whole show. Overall, it's an okay year for Bill and Ted. The middle 10 minutes kind of lost me, but short of that, it's something I'll definitely go see again. And then there is the Rocky Horror Picture Show Tribute, which is back. It was on a few years hiatus, but it's back, and it's pretty much the same as it always has been. It's a fun version of the Rocky Horror movie. It is about 40 minutes long is the show, so it's a condensed version. Doesn't have all the songs, all the scenes, but it's got a highlights version. And it is enjoyable. Definitely some talented performers in there, and I'm sure they will grow and get better as the season goes on. So there is sort of an overview of Halloween Horror Nights out here in Orlando this year. You can look into even more detail and lots of pictures and video over on InsideTheMagic.net and on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/InsideTheMagic. We've been working hard to get it all to you, and we're not even close to being done. I took some great lights on tours of 6 of the haunted houses. Haven't even shared those photos yet. I took hundreds, literally over 1,000 photos from those walkthroughs, so you can look for those pretty soon, and we've got some fun, inventive ideas to continue the coverage of Horror Nights in the coming weeks. And it's not going to stop there. Halloween is just getting rolling. Of course, we've also been out to Halloween Horror Nights in Hollywood. I haven't personally yet. I'm going to be doing that in a couple of weeks, but Jeremiah and Josh Dawes went for the very first time. I convinced them to go. Actually, it was The Walking Dead that convinced them to go, because they're big fans of that show. And so they've already submitted their videos and a fun first-timers report over on InsideTheMagic.net. You definitely don't want to miss that, and then I'll follow up with a more in-depth look at all the experiences there in just a couple of weeks when I get out there. Going to be going to Hallowscream at Busch Gardens this coming Friday. Of course, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. I haven't even been to that yet, but I will in just a couple of weeks. When I'm in California, I'm also going to be going to Rob Zombie's Great American Nightmare. I'm going to be going to Blackout. I'm going to be going to The Purge, Fear the Night. I'm going to be going to Knott's. I'm going to be going, of course, Halloween Horror Nights out there, and a couple of others as well that are escaping my mind right at the moment. And it just goes on and on. There's a couple of local haunts that I'm going to be doing too. So if you are as much of a fan of Halloween as I am, stick to InsideTheMagic.net and, of course, here on the show. And I'll be talking much more and sharing much more from all of this Halloween-themed entertainment in the weeks to come.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Ricky, this is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Inside the Magic listener feedback.
We'll keep the spooky music going here for a little bit of listener feedback. First up, continuing this topic of Rosita in the Tiki Room. Somebody asked a few weeks ago, hey, what happened to Rosita? Of course, that line is just kind of thrown out there in the show, and I kind of played into it a little bit, sparking this conversation. Really, where is Rosita? I mean, it is just a throwaway line of the show, but truly, where is Rosita? Well, Brian chimed in with something that I should have offered weeks ago, but I didn't, but it is certainly part of the ongoing story of Rosita being, quote-unquote, missing from the Tiki Room. Brian let me know, or reminded me, that the Imagineers have paid tribute to that gag in the new Big Thunder Mountain Railroad queue out here at Walt Disney World, in which there is a canary cage labeled Rosita. So I guess you can find her there. Now we've got an email from Tim, who writes... My family and I are huge Disney fans and are eagerly awaiting our next trip to California in November, and it's been fun to discover your podcast and keep up with the news about the park and get even more inspired for the trip. Quick question, I'm a big fan of World Builder iOS app, specifically Jurassic Park Builder, Simpsons Tapped Out. I'm also a huge fan of Disneyland, and it would be a no-brainer for Disney to produce a Disneyland World Builder in the same vein. Have you, by any chance, heard about such a game in development? Sadly, Tim, I have not, but you're absolutely right. Of course, Disney Infinity's out there. You got Toy Box mode, and you can kind of sort of put together Disneyland-like areas. But no, that would be excellent to have one of those right on your tablet, be able to assemble different attractions, and not quite Roller Coaster Tycoon, but more of like the games that you mentioned, where you kind of build up your area and earn money and unlock characters and unlock different things you can put down and that sort of thing. I have not heard anything like that, but it definitely sounds like a no-brainer to me as well. Next is an email that I don't know the answer to necessarily. Kind of goes along the same lines as a Rosita-type question. Becky writes in, we were wondering if you or anybody knew the age of the Beast when he was cursed. I know it says in Be Our Guest, 10 years we've been rusting, need so much more than dusting, but was Lumiere exaggerating or being serious? I don't know, Becky, if the Beast has an age or not. I mean, I'm sure he has an age somewhere, but I don't know his age. I could guess, but that wouldn't help. So if anyone out there knows of a story somewhere, a treatment, or a reference to actually the actual age of the Beast, I'll be happy to help Becky out. Let me know. Next email is from Diane, who writes to the listener, who asked recently about free parking at the Disneyland Resort. Should know that if you are a Vacation Club member and you're using Vacation Club points to stay at the villas at the Grand Californian or at any official Disneyland Resort hotel, Disneyland Hotel, Paradise Pier, Grand Californian, one of the perks is free self-parking in the hotel parking lots. Since the theme parks are a very short walk, there is no need to park in the official parking lots where you will have to pay to park. Diane, good to know that little perk for Vacation Club members. All right, let's do just a couple more emails, and then we'll wrap this up, as the show is getting pretty long this week. Chris writes in and says, I was in Walt Disney World this past week on my honeymoon. When we went to Epcot, we struck up a conversation with one of the artists in the Art of Disney stores, and he mentioned they are bringing Cars Land to Walt Disney World. He also mentioned Star Wars Land. No big surprise there. Have you heard anything on this? Chris, yeah, well, sure, I've heard lots on it, except none of it's true. Maybe. Cars Land's not happening. That pretty much is dead. It was, considered, but that's just not happening for Walt Disney World. Star Wars is another story. We don't know what's happening, but certainly we're going to see more Star Wars out here at Walt Disney World for sure. Probably Disneyland as well. But Cars Land at Walt Disney World, not so much. And lastly for this week is an email from Billy, who writes, I had to let you know that I bought Infinity, a Disney Infinity, based on the reviews and information I heard on the show, and everything has been as advertised or better. I love Toy Box mode. It is, it's like it's slowly reconnecting me with the creative side of my brain that I used to have from when I was a kid. I play around with the stuff and run into roadblocks because of the limits my mind has, but then it's like you realize that there aren't any rules to what you can do, and it's really fun to see what I can come up with. I'm learning everything slowly because my video game time is limited, but so far it has been a blast. So in short, thanks for the coverage of the game, because I never would have bought it if I hadn't heard the positive reviews on the show. Well, Billy, I'm so glad that you have enjoyed it as a result of me talking so highly about it. As I said earlier, I wish I had more time personally to play with it. I'm running into the same problem you are, that it's really fun, and I just don't have that much video game time lately. Of course, I'm busy doing hours and hours of Halloween Horror Nights, which I'd rather do than play video games, but as soon as I do find some downtime, I will definitely dive back into Disney Infinity. I don't think that's going away anytime soon. There's many more playsets coming out, many more figures, and I'm looking forward to building some elaborate toy box worlds eventually. So that will do it for listener feedback this week. And that's where we're wrapping up show 442 of Inside the Magic, a great look at Halloween Horror Nights. Of course, my favorite event of the whole year. I probably could have talked for even longer about it, but I wanted to keep it as concise as possible. If you want more from Horror Nights, and I know you do, head over to InsideTheMagic.net. Look for my house-by-house review and also my initial night's report. I've got two separate big articles on it. One's a focus on the scare zones and video of that whole area. Lots of photos as well. The other is a focus on the houses with video of all the houses and the shows and everything, and I promise there's just that's just getting started with that event. There's a lot more to share as well. But of course, not the only exciting thing that's going on around here. The Food and Wine Festival is coming up, and outside of Halloween, food and wine. Yes, that is one of my favorites of the year. So looking forward to hopping over to Epcot this coming weekend to eat my way around the world, showcase, sample some good stuff, and have even more than what I've already tried, though you can already head over to InsideTheMagic.net to see even more of a preview of what is to come there. I do want to thank Magical Travel for sponsoring this week's episode of Inside the Magic. You can find out more about their services by visiting magicaltravel.com. Also, don't forget to check out the Capturing Magic iPhone apps. Easy for taking care of all of your, picture-taking opportunities throughout the parks. Keep it all organized and handy there. And, of course, between episodes of this show, you're going to want to visit InsideTheMagic.net. It is your source for everything Disney and theme park and Halloween. This time of year, I'm going to be exploring even more haunts than I ever have before. Some really fun and unique stuff even outside the world of theme parks. So stay tuned for all of that. InsideTheMagic.net, once again, is the website, but don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and in order to keep up with all of it. So thanks to all of you for listening and for watching each and every week. And have a magical week. Bye.
Shining at the end of every day, there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, just a dream away.